you guys doing? All right. Well, good morning as always, small group. Man, where's everybody at? I guess so.
So you guys played Jefferson twice last year, and they're
Yeah.
two really different games. One, you probably held him to close to, if not a career low, and then the second game, he popped off for 200. And so
Yeah.
I'm wondering, as a coordinator, when you go back and you kind of look at that film, what do you learn from, I guess, both of those matchups that you can apply to future matchups against him?
The first thing, that guy's a really good player. In our first game, our guys made the plays. In the second game, he made the plays. It's as simple as that. We dealt him just like we did, both games. And I think Jeff did a really good job of being physical with them at the beginning of every play. And Jeff did a really good job of actually denying the ball, along with our safety. And then when you come to the second game, he made some unbelievable catches with two guys on him. And that just, when you're one of the top three receivers in this league, man, that can happen. All right, the thing that we got to be able to do is just outcompete that guy. He's a fun guy to go against because you know what's going to happen. You know where the ball's going. So our guys would be ready for that.
Those elite athletes, those guys that do make plays regardless of what you throw at them.
Yeah.
Can you also see their adjustments to you? I mean, you said you kind of came at him with the same strategy, doubling him.
Yeah.
I mean, could you see the minor tweaks that he did to compensate for what
The only
he was?
adjustment that I saw them guys make is him going up and getting the ball. That's it, because they ran the same routes. This offense did not change. And sometimes, there are really good players in this league that can make plays. Again, that adjustment word that comes out, that it kills me. But he ran the 7 route, he made the play. He ran the 7 route on Jeff, he didn't make the play. It's very simple.
I wanted to ask you about Khalil Dorsey, played over 65% of defensive snaps.
Yeah.
Just wondering what your assessment is of his potential and how he's been performing.
He's a guy that's tough. He's fast. He's physical. Listen, he hasn't had a lot of reps out there playing corner. If you look at what he's done for us on special teams, I mean, he is one of the elite gunners, in my opinion, in this game. And he's still growing. He's still growing. So, but he is a corner. He is a corner that can run. So we want to give him every opportunity to go out there and show what he can do. And I've said this many times, when you show me in practice you can go out there and compete and you can play, you're going to get a chance to play for me. And he deserved that. So he went out there and he did a good job for us.
Defensive back who's played a bigger role for you of late. Iffy,
Yeah.
beyond the opportunity, just being healthy, what has he done so well to earn that and to make good on the opportunity?
If you guys know my background when it comes to safeties, I'm a big fan of safeties that has a corner background. And that's one of the reasons he's here. Because he's able to cover like we need to, like a corner, but he is tough enough and physical enough as a safety to get down in the box and go make plays. So, and you said it already, one of Iffy's biggest issues was him being healthy for the whole time. And then making that transition, man, it's not an easy transition, all right, because he did come in as a corner. So now he understands exactly what we're looking for in the safeties. And his communication, that's what's really improved. And he's already a smart guy. So the thing is, he still needs time on task, right? It's just, man, he went out there and he really showed what he can do last week. And I'm expecting him to continue to grow.
CJ back, obviously,
Yeah.
soon this week or whenever it is. What becomes of Iffy? How do you, it's a good problem.
Best
to have,
guy
I guess.
plays. Best guy plays. It's simple. So whoever the best guy is in practice, that's who's going to play. So I don't want to make anything bigger than this and what it is, so please don't ask.
What does having 3 guys that can play that position offer you in terms of some packages? And
I mean, you have 3 good players that can go out there and play at any given time.
How long do you think it'll take CJ to get up to game speed or where he needs to be?
Well, I think that's what any player is coming off an injury. You have to have confidence in what you're doing. He has to have confidence in him going out there and making tackles. And he will. I know that player very, very well. And once he gets a chance to practice, let's see what he can do. And let's see him go out there and compete with other guys, see who gets a chance to get the job.
In respect to best guy plays, I mean, you do, when a guy's playing well, you will find packages and ways to use him regardless.
Absolutely. I'm not going to tell you guys that, though. But yes, we will.
Just told us.
I'm not going to tell you what and how.
Another guy in the secondary that got some run last week, Vilder. He had, I think, a PBU, a quarterback hit.
Yep.
Just kind of all over the place. Just, I guess
He deserves a chance to play also. He's practicing with us. He's practicing hard. So we're going to give him a chance. He's also playing special teams. And the thing about those two guys, man, we really need those guys to play special teams. So both of those guys will get a chance to play on defense. We don't want to run them out. We'll run them down. So, listen, it's a good situation for us to have of two guys that's compete for that job and also helping us on special teams.
Josh Pascal had a couple big plays as well. Just how have you seen him grow over the last couple of weeks since he's come back?
Well, listen, that's a guy I've been talking about for a while. And, man, he's still a young player. He's still a player that's on the upswing for us. There's a lot of learning that he still has. He can still grow. So I'm expecting those plays from him. I really do, because of the talent and because we know that player coming out in the draft. We expect those things from him.
How important that's been getting plays from Pascal, and you throw Kaminsky in there
Yeah.
too, and just getting that kind of that other guy, that other side, because you know Hutch is going to bring it every week. But
Yeah.
getting those extra plays from those other guys, how impactful has that been?
It has been. I mean, I think you guys know how I feel about Kamish. He's the ultimate warrior. Anything you ask him to do, he's going to go out there and do it. Man, he's a Detroit Lion through and through, you know. So really like that player, really like what he brings to the table. And Pascal's one of those young guys that he's able to play out on the edge. Then you could also put him inside as a 3 technique to go out there and rush. So talent-wise, man, there's a lot there with that player. You know, again, he just needs time on task. And he's another guy just got to stay healthy, and he's been doing a good job of that this year.
I wanted to ask you one about just last
You
week's
have to
game.
ask me about CJ and if he get on you.
No, CJ. Last week's game plan. A lot more blitzing, I think, on
Yeah.
early downs. Certainly more usage of your secondary. I assume a lot of that had to do with just how long Russell held onto the ball. Typically,
Yeah.
that was his kind of profile. But did you see value, I guess, in kind of the way you blitzed in that game as something that can be applicable going forward for you guys?
Listen, I wanted to be aggressive in that. I knew the matchups that we had were favorable for us when you go Dorsey out there, because Dorsey can run. You guys have seen that on special teams. Iffy being out there, a former corner that can play. So, man, those are the guys that allowed us as a defense to go out there and really be aggressive. And it was a fun game to call, especially against my former boss, who I like a lot, and he's taught me a lot. To go out there and go toe-to-toe with him for the most part, like it was fun.
Sunday, you got Nick Mullins in there. Obviously, they've had a lot of different quarterbacks taking snaps. Just how is he different from maybe the other guys that have come before him?
Well, he's been around this league for a little bit, and he understands football. You see, he's more the traditional pocket passer, totally different than Dobbs. All right, Dobbs is the guy that can run around and make some plays with his feet. The thing about him, and he understands, you can see him be able to progression read and make those throws he has to make. Listen, I expect them to utilize their running backs. I expect them to utilize Jefferson. I know Jefferson wants his balls, because I don't know how many he got last week, but he didn't get as many as Addison. So I know that's going to be an issue. So we expect him to utilize all his skill players, you know. So, and then you can't forget about Hawkinson also.
Here since the beginning, of this sort of rebuild.
Yeah.
Been through the lean times that first season and a half. How proud of you, or how proud are you of where you guys are right now, what you've accomplished or on the verge of accomplishing, and what would it mean to bring a division championship to?
Man, listen, I've learned a lot in these 3 years. Just overall of like, how do you want to build a team? The right way to do it, regardless of what people on the outside say. Man, you have to be true to your values. You have to be true to your standards. And you have to trust what you're doing, because, man, there's going to be a lot of naysayers out there. But, man, when you have people internally that understand exactly what you're trying to do, that's all that matters. And that's something that, like Dan and Brad has done a really, really good job of. So I commend those guys for that. But being able to get a division, to win this division, I think it means a lot for everybody in this building. Well, I know it does. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we do that this Sunday. And that's been the plan from the beginning. You know, even though it took us, you know, this third year to do it, that's always been the plan. So, but not just to win the division, man. Everyone wants to win that Super Bowl, but you have to win that division first, and you have to do things like that so you can see you have things to build on, and that's what we're trying to do.
I imagine it's very much by design with their personnel, but,
Yeah.
but adding Addison and Hawk the
Wow.
last 2 years, like you want to double
Big
Jefferson,
balls.
you're gonna, yeah. I mean, like how much more difficult is it to stop Jefferson when you have two complementary weapons like that?
Listen, you have to try to take somebody out, and then you have to win your one-on-ones also. And that's just the nature of football. And every now and then you can take your chance on doubling, you know, two guys. If you double three, you don't have enough guys rushing, you know. So, but it's going to be a challenge, and we know that. But the guys that's in that one-on-one situation, man, you have to go out there and compete. And you have to compete with confidence, and that's just what it is. There's some times we're going to be one-on-one with Jefferson, right? And our guys got to compete with confidence, and that's just part of playing football. And I think our guys will be up for that challenge. Absolutely. No, ask me about CJ Iffy.
Brian Flores, you know, he calls such a unique defense
Yeah.
with the cover zeros and the 8-man drops. I'm just curious what your relationship is with him, and I guess what kind of respect level you have for the style, the uniqueness
Yeah.
of defense he calls.
Listen, I know Brian very well. Been knowing him for a while. You saw him mature and grow as a coach, and to be able to develop his own style. And to me, it goes back to what do you believe in as a coach? And he believes in this style of play. And we've sat down, we talked about, you know, this style of play just before when he was in Miami before. And you saw glimpses of that in Miami. And I think now he has a chance to go full tilt what his beliefs are. And regardless of what I feel about the scheme, it doesn't really matter. It's the fact that he feels like really, really good, and he's confident in the scheme, and that's all that matters. Just like what we do. We're confident in what we do. And we're going to go out there and try to, you know, make it as best as we can of what we do. And I think he's doing that with his guys.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Same to you guys.
Outstanding. Great. Unbelievable, really. Fire away. I know we got questions. You know I don't do the whole, what do they call that, intro thing? Or, opening statement. Yeah.
Made a difficult decision last week in this to make a switch at kicker, and we know your affinity for Badgley, but I think that probably also extended to Riley as well. So just, you know, as a coach, no matter how many years you've been in, how difficult is it to make that decision, and I guess how much has Badge earned this opportunity?
Yeah, I'm glad you phrased the question that way, because I will say that it is definitely difficult. You know, Riley's just a great, great person, and he's a very, very hard worker and extremely committed to his craft and being a kicker. So anyway, you obviously hate that, and really the decision was actually to kick one guy over the other, and then the decision to cut a guy is kind of a totally separate decision. I do know this: when you're the last specialist or an extra specialist on a roster, it's never a good spot. You know, it's hard to carry extra guys, especially this time of year. So that kind of is a separate situation there. But anyways, to go to the decision with Riley and Badgley, really it's fairly simple. I think I had actually mentioned to you guys, I think coming off the Charger game, that we had put the pressure on him a little bit, and no one really asked me what did that mean, but I threw it out there for you. But anyway, nobody really asked what that meant, but what that did mean is internally we had those guys competing in practice, and so they would each get roughly 6 kicks a day, and we kicked them at least twice a week, so it was 12 kicks a week. And over the course of 6 weeks, Badgley had been better, and we didn't want to rush to make that decision right away. We felt like he deserved it, you know, as fair of an opportunity as we could have given him. but it was clear at the end of the day that he was playing better. And so ultimately, the way that I handle those decisions, I mean, my job is to really have the best interest of the whole team in mind, or the whole locker room and all those players sitting in that meeting. And it's not just one person, but it's really, I have a responsibility to be fair to all of them by playing whoever, we think's the best player. With a kicker, it's pretty clear. I mean, makes and misses and percentages. And I do think that practice matters, and I do think that players trend towards what their practice stuff is. And to give you an example of that, I would tell you, when I was in Philadelphia, obviously we had Jake Elliott, who I think everybody thinks is a great player, and he was back then too, but there was a year where he was down a little bit, and I was talking to the media, and they were, there was a guy beating him up and trying to give me a hard time about, why I thought he was a good player. And I said, well, I mean, he's missed a few kicks. Some of them were situational kicks, very long in Pittsburgh in tough situations with 3 seconds left in the half. It was that or the Hail Mary. We elected to do that. That dropped his percentage down. But ultimately, his practice numbers were really good. And if you watch him right now, he's hitting like his practice numbers, So it's like, so to me, you have a large sample size in practice. In games, you have a very small sample size. And obviously, Riley had played well for us in games. But ultimately, that bigger sample size was in Badgley's favor.
Is your comfort level with Badgley playing to that too from last year and kicking for you in game, right? Veteran who's done it in games.
Yeah, I have a lot of comfort in Badgley, but the truth is I felt good about Riley too. Like Dan and I were talking about it, but on that Charger kick, the game winner, like I had no doubt that he was going to make that. And that's really what he's been, a very effective kicker from short range. He's better than a lot of guys in this league, kicking from shorter distances. As you get further and further, his numbers start to fall, as do everybody's, but maybe his a little bit more than some in the league. But when you do look at his numbers, he's got good numbers. I mean, he played well for us, so it was definitely tough, but ultimately it was fairly clear to all of us, I think. But yeah, I feel very comfortable in Badgley. The one thing I love about him is, he's going to swing at the ball the exact same way every single time. It doesn't matter if it's a 53-yarder or if it's whatever, 22-yarder. He's going to approach the ball the same way every single time. He's very consistent, and mentally, he really doesn't waver, make, miss. He knows that he's going to miss some. We all do. Obviously, we hope not very many, but he's very, very flat line. I would say ultimately both those guys are very comparable that way. So I don't think there's probably much difference in terms of game management. And, we were thinking we could have kicked one guy 8 yards further than the other. Not at all. I would say very similar.
Missed a couple extra points. Now, big picture, we're a couple of years into this 33-yard extra point thing. How much has that become, we expect you to go out and knock that through every time?
Yeah, I think you expect them to knock that kick through every time, but reality also says that, like the league average, I don't know what it is right now, but the last few years has been around 94%. So everybody misses some, or most guys miss some, which 94% means you miss one or two throughout the course of a year, and I think that's pretty standard amongst the league. So you expect them to make it, but also reality out there says, most guys miss one or two.
The expectations have gone up from when you started it, and it seemed like, wow, this was a big jump to now where it's become the norm.
Yeah, I feel like every year these guys just collectively as a group, it's just better and better and better and better. And some of these guys are hitting, deeper kicks too, and all that. And I do think that the long field goal thing is a little bit of a separate conversation. I think now you're starting to draw in some analytics and what's the down and distance and going for it. Obviously, we go for it a lot in that situation. Some of those are because it's maybe further than we're comfortable kicking. Some of it's because the analytics say for us that, being more aggressive is maybe a better thing.
I asked Aaron this, but I'm curious for you. You came here in 21 when things were lean right that first season and a half to be where you guys are now on the verge of winning a division championship. I know you still have to take care of the business, but what does it mean? How important is it to have accomplished this to this point? And what do you think it means to the city and the organization, I guess, after 30 years maybe in that now?
Yeah, oh man, there's a lot to that. I don't know. I feel like, There's been a lot of hard work. I know that. None of this stuff's come easy. I really credit our head coach and the organization. Brad's done a great job acquiring players, and Dan's done an incredible job. I think our staff's been outstanding. Obviously, Ben and AG and those guys. I mean, every week, giving ourselves a chance to win. Those guys do a great job. So I think there's a certain level of pride in the fact that you're helping be a part of turning something around. I think that's probably the most fulfilling thing you could be in this profession. But at the same time, I also think that as a coach, your focus is just so much on the next game. It's really like the next play, and then after you make it through that game, you're like, okay, right away, you're into the next game, and you're already thinking about whatever, protecting the punt or, whatever it is that you're going to do. But so I don't think really coaches do a good job of putting that all into perspective, at least not now. But I think, hopefully we'll be able to look back and say, hey, we did something special there.
Ask you a couple about kickoff returns. First, just about your team's performance this year. I think you're in the top 10 in attempted returns, but just haven't been able to break that big one. We know the high standard you hold the punt return to with Heaven Khalif, but why do you think you haven't been able to break through as a
Yeah, in the
kickoff
return game. On kickoff return, we haven't necessarily broken through on the big one, but I think if you look at drive start on the player, drive start's like 6 in the league or whatever. So, there's always that conversation. There's a lot of people that look at return yards, and sometimes they look at, if you return a kickoff from -5 yards deep, that's counted into your return. So you get to the 25, but you took it 5 yards out of the end zone. You got a 30-yard return, and versus us, maybe we have a 25-yard return, but we brought it out from the +2, so it's at the 27. So if you look at the return yards, you say, well, they're not as good, but you look at the drive start, you say they're better. So for us, I would put most of our emphasis on drive start on both those phases, kickoff and kickoff return, not the number of yards given up or gained. That would be the important stat to me. I think we're pretty good in both those. I think our kickoff might be first in the league and drive start. But anyway, and then on the punt return stuff, there is a lot to that punt play. And I think as this game's progressed and just the situations that occur inside of a game. And I'll give you an example. Kansas City, we were playing them early in the year, obviously the first game. And we got a lead. We jumped out early. We got a lead. And now they're punting. They're punting around midfield. They got a punter who's throwing the ball, and they've had some fakes in their background, their past. And really the most important thing becomes winning the football game. And the individual or the unit goal of being great on punt return or getting Leaf a bunch of return yards really takes a back seat. I think if you do a good job of coaching, and the ego or whatever inside of a coach wants to his side of the ball to be good statistically, but really the first and the most important goal for us, and I say it every week after the game to our players, is winning the game. And as long as we win the game, it's all good. And whatever we got to do that, and if that means we're backing off the gas pedal on some of the return game and we're being a little bit more conservative and that makes it a little bit harder to get started, then we'll do that. So I do think there's some of that, and I'm not saying that that's the only reason there. And then obviously punt return, the next thing you look at is where's the opponent punting. If they're punting around midfield, it's tough to get a return. If they're punting backed up, it's easier. If they're punting on 4th and 1, it's harder to get a return. You're obviously playing to stop the fake first. Make sure you get the ball back to your offense. If you're playing on 4th and 17, obviously with them backed up on the -20, now your return yards are significantly different. And so you guys asked me a few years ago, do I like the statistics? And I say on the punt game, I think they're not very good. And because they just lump every single punt and every single punt return into the same category. And it would be like for us on our punt net, we punted the ball from around midfield, sometimes not very well in the last game, but from around midfield a lot. Well, we're not going to have nearly the same net as a team who's punting backed up a lot, but our offense moves the ball a lot, and we're punting around that area of the field. It's a good problem to have, but if you just look at bottom line stats, and it doesn't look great.
Follow up kickoffs.
What's that?
I did have a follow-up on kickoffs.
Okay, yeah.
Troy Vincent had the comments last week about ceremonial play, and I know you've always said whatever the rules are, we'll play them, but within that, he said that, the plan was to consult with special teams coordinators around the league. I'm just wondering, when do you start thinking about maybe offering some thoughts on how to make kickoff returns more of a valuable play again?
Yeah, I don't know if this is a great answer, but I feel like if they come to me, I'll certainly give my opinion. I'll give them all of it, really. If they don't come to me, I'm really not going to reach out to them for a whole lot. I mean, I love coaching the game. I love coaching the game. I love being around the players. I love the challenge of game day, and I love seeing, guys accomplish something that maybe they didn't think possible. My least favorite thing is like dealing with all that kind of stuff, to be honest with you, although I do have a lot of opinions, but I think sometimes it's just difficult. Really, my job, if I'm going to do well my job, it's going to take all my energy to kind of focus on that. So I've always kind of stayed that way. I do hope at the end of the day that whatever they put in place, that the plays play out, because right now there's just a high percentage of plays that aren't playing out, and it's not any fun for me. It's not fun for the players. I don't think it's fun for the fans. You know what I mean? And so ultimately you want something where there's going to be an outcome decided at the end of that play, good or bad. You'll be able to help your team win or lose, and you're going to be a factor in the game one way or the other. And so hopefully whatever they do, they get more plays to play out.
So I got to follow up Fipp, huh? He came in my office acting like nothing had happened, too. That was the thing. And then I get filled in by Solomon, and it's like, what? I mean, I can't even get my wife anything for Christmas right now, much less, Plenty of time, though. We got plenty of time, so. Smart man. You guys got to bear with me. I got a little cold I'm fighting through right now, but we'll open it up from there.
Just when you look at them defensively, just the challenge with Brian and his scheme. I mean, he'll blitz you 1 minute and then he'll drop 8 and the next. So just the challenge of facing kind of a unique scheme this week.
Yeah, it's the two extremes. In certain situations, offensively, we always talk about, hey, they're either max coverage or max pressure. As a general philosophy, a lot of teams do that down in the red zone, but Flores is kind of taking that to a new extreme, at any time and any moment. It's been fun this week trying to dissect their defense. They do a lot, and it's hard. But our staff's done a nice job trying to narrow down some things that we can key in on potentially. But he's got a new wrinkle each and every week that we'll have to be able to adjust to. Our guys they understand the challenges that present themselves, that the safeties, they disguise 22s as good as there is in the business, and he has been for a long time in this division. But really, he's got that whole crew beyond the scheme. To me, the fundamentals are what show up. The front seven, they shed blocks really well. You can tell they stress turnovers. They have so many fumbles already this season, and then they tackle really well also. And then the other thing they do is they play very disciplined football. So when you combine that with the scheme, the fact that their players are playing at such a high level, that's what makes them so dangerous.
I'm curious on Goff's history against Flores' defense, if at all.
I'm sure, he knows how some of his style. I think Jared has evolved over the years. So we aren't running the LA offense per se. We've got some elements of it, but, Jared has grown as a quarterback as well. So if there's anything that he's going to draw from in his past, he also has to keep in mind the recent tape of Jared where he's a little bit different player than he was a few years ago. And same thing with him and his Miami stuff that he put on tape there. They've got some carryover things, but not all of it. So it'll be a good battle here this week.
Players playing through things right now. I'm just curious as a coach when you're dealing with illness, right? Like, it's important that you're sharp in game planning and sharp on game day. Like, how do you battle through a cold during the season? Like, what's your, plan to make sure you're taking care of yourself while taking care of your job?
I had a coach in college that used to say, you never really understand how much the human body can withstand. Everyone always underestimates it. And I heard them, and it fell on deaf ears at the time when I was in college. But then I had kids, and it started to resonate a little bit more that, yeah, okay, you're tired or you're not feeling good. Well, they still need you. They still need you. So you get up and you do your job. And I think for coaches, when we're not feeling 100%, and certainly with our players, none of them are 100% right now. We have an obligation to the people next to us to come through in a big way. So I think our guys take a lot of pride in that, and that's no different here this week.
Probably easier when Frank's out there playing a week after having his knee repaired and CJ is playing with one arm for the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, Frank's a stud, man. He's incredible. You know, the numbers speak for itself. When he's out on the field, we're a better offense, and we can't look past that. Certainly don't take it for granted.
I wanted to ask about Panay. He said you challenged him during the offseason to just really hone in on the technique and improve his IQ. How have you seen that grow and make him a better player here in year 3?
Well, he was a heck of a player the first 2 years, but I think he's taken some coaching points, and they were minutiae for him because he was already one of the top tackles in the league, in my opinion, after year 2, and he's really taken it to another level. Particularly in the run game, there were some techniques that we asked him to try that he hadn't tried. We always compare him with Trent Williams out there in San Fran. That guy's on another level, and we think Panay can be that same type of player. But I think the one area that he's done just such a solid job for us is in pass pro. It's hard to see him give up a pressure on the quarterback right now. He does a really nice job there. So in both areas, he's done a good job, and his hands have gotten better too. We just haven't highlighted that yet on the field. So you never know.
Given that, how great's the matchup this week with Donnell?
What's that?
Given what you just said about Panay, how great's that matchup against him and Donnell this week?
Yeah, I mean, Donnell is I forget what the sack numbers are, but he clearly can pressure the quarterback, and so we need to know where he's at. They do such a good job schematically. It might not be so much getting a free hitter, but they generate one-on-ones all the time, and over the course of the game, someone on their side of the ball wins their one-on-one, and that's why teams get off schedule and there's all these 3rd and longs. Hunter's a huge part of that, huge part of that, and that's where our tackles and really the entire offensive line is going to have to play really well, consistent ball throughout the game here.
They've only given up one run, 20 yards or more all year. Ja's got 10, leads the league. What have they done so well to eliminate those big chunk plays in the running game?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at them, they tend to play a little bit lighter than what your personnel group is. So say we have 2 tight ends out there, they haven't been much base defense so far this year. And so it gives that illusion that, oh, we should be able to run the ball, but boy, did they rally. They like I said, up front, those guys, they shed blocks. I mean, I see 90 popping off the tape. I see 97 popping off the tape. Even if you get a good fit on them, it's hard to sustain that block, and it shows up time and time again. And then this undrafted rookie, number 40, he's the real deal now. He is slippery. He can he'll take on blocks, but at the same time, he'll get right on by in a hurry. So I think the combination of their big guys along with number 40 and then the aggressive safeties, I think the combination of all that has made it really hard for teams to run the ball.
What are you seeing from Gibbs now these last, I don't know how many weeks, in terms of coming into his own as a weapon?
I mean, he's been electric really since he stepped on the field for us. I don't know if I've necessarily seen anything out of the ordinary. I know he had the one 30-yard run last week, but I don't think any of us were surprised by it. So he's been consistent. It's the details for him, the landmarks in the running game, understanding it, pass pro, who he's responsible for not being a really big guy. He is more than willing, and he continues to get better in that area. That's probably the one department that we continue to see going up and up. But the run game has been pretty solid all year long.
Small sample size for him, but it seems like he's a little less involved in the pass game and more involved in the run game. Is that just kind of a situation where you just kind of want him to...
Remains to be seen, yeah. It's week to week there.
I know you hate talking about this topic in season, but I'm going to try to ask it just a little bit differently because your name, once again, obviously getting surfaced in all kinds of lists about potential head coaching. I'm just wondering, last year as you went through this, like how easy was that for you to block out just knowing that when you got to the end that it was going to be something you were going to have to navigate?
Did you guys ask AG about this? Okay. Because he's a guy that we should be asking about head coaching. That guy, what he's done, he's phenomenal. He's going to be a phenomenal head football coach when he gets the opportunity to do that. And I think when you bring those types of questions up, you need to make sure you're asking them to him as well. But the focus right now is on the Minnesota Vikings. That's all we care about. And like I said before, we are obligated to each other to keep our focus on the main thing.
Let's give AG's flowers then. You know, I think that guy gets more criticism on the outside, whether it's through talk radio or fans or, sometimes even in this room. So when, maybe the defense isn't putting up the same statistics that the offense is, what is he doing behind the scenes that sets him apart, that makes you believe that head coach is what's in his future?
The way his players respect him, he is very demanding, yet he has a gentle touch when it comes to being able to relate and get them to bring out the best in them. So I know when he gets his opportunity, he's gonna take it and run with it.
How much is he, I guess, molded, inspired kind of your approach to coaching, just being
You
in the
take
same...
something from everybody you're around, everybody. So I'm learning from Coach Campbell every day. I'm learning from Scotty Montgomery every day, Hank Fraley, Dave Fipp, across the board. So I think you really try to pick out great things from each guy you're around and own them yourself.
Man, you guys are on the verge of doing something that you haven't just as an organization in 30 years. And I know the job's not done yet, but winning the division, how special is that? Do you consider that a special season yet? And if not, what sort of qualifies as special for you guys?
Yeah, I probably haven't had time to reflect on that one yet, to be honest with you. One of our goals this season was to win the division, and we, with 3 games left, are in position to do that. So just trying to keep the main thing right now, and then we can always reflect when the season does end. But for right now, we're right where we need to be. Our players are right where they need to be, and really looking forward to the opportunity here this week.
Hey Ben, Kaylin Kaler with The Athletic. Nice to meet you. You said that a big reason you didn't want to leave Detroit last offseason is because of Jared Goff. So I want to know, now that we're almost at the end of this regular season, what has been the best part about working with Jared for another season this year?
Yeah, I know. I mean, our relationship just continues to flourish. He does such a great job. He challenges me. I challenge him every day. I like to think he's continuing to get better as a player, but I really think we are so much more aligned in how we see football right now. It helps him play faster on the field. He knows the intent of everything that we're trying to get done. So, no, he's a huge reason for what we can do. And we joke about it. People don't give him credit. You can look at the stats and you can look at the passing numbers. The things that he handles with the pre-snap operation is really second to none. There aren't many quarterbacks in this league doing what he does. He's such a smart player, and that tends to get overlooked sometimes. But no, I'm extremely grateful for all the time I've been able to have with Jared. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
If you're looking to pull something.